said it was me. Swear. Fucking said it was me. Fucking said it was me. Swear. Swear. Swear.
Has located a hidden signal under the primary channel. The hidden signal.
Kill me. I've been a war since before either ever even existed. You will not kill me.
Look out for Charlie.
Kill me. I've been a war since before either ever even existed. You will not kill me.
Look out for Charlie.
I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head.
In this video, I'm going to try to talk about a bunch of stuff that I keep forgetting to talk about. What I really need to do is start doing these, every couple weeks. For a long time, people have been leaving comments on my channel and other places saying, I'm really surprised that you don't get censored more. Let me tell you what's up with that, because it's coming. But right now, I avoid certain keywords, and I'm not going to name them, but there are keywords that I avoid saying in my videos and talking about. Certain phrases that I do not use. I do not use the terminology. Even in the titles of the videos, I'm very careful about what I do. The other thing is, and this is the biggest part, is we're not at critical mass yet. And what I mean by that is there isn't a huge number of people that are totally aware of what is going on yet. But we are making progress, because when I go to BitChute or other websites and check, there are way more people talking about RF weapons now, ELF weapons, than they ever were. It's not taboo anymore. And it used to be really, really taboo. And for years, man, for years, every time I would log into my channel, I was always like uptight and nervous because I didn't think it was going to be there every time I logged in, especially around 2018, 2019. You just have to walk the minefield. And believe me, I wouldn't be here if all my subscribers were somewhere else. I've been telling people to subscribe on BitChute and other platforms for a long time, but people don't do it. And now I've got like 12.5 thousand subscribers on here. I can't just split. This is where I get a lion's share of my views. But I like to keep my thumb on the pulse of what is going on. There is a silver lining to all this, and that is that a lot of people are talking about this that weren't before. And yeah, it's kind of a pussy move, because they waited for it to be relatively safe to start talking about it. They didn't want to be the outliers talking about this. Now they're talking about it. But it's still good, even though they're pussies, because it brings in critical mass even faster. That other thing that helped was the thing that they stick in people's arms. But you have to be very careful about that, because they're blaming it on everything. And they love that arm sticking stuff because it's divisive and it's completely politicized. Like totally politicized. Flip the script upside down, politicized. And it's the first alleged illness to be fully turned into a political weapon of subversion and division. And it is totally doing it. I mean, there are people walking around in masks as a political statement. It's just batshit crazy. That is how radicalized people are. And they talk about radicalization on the news. And the media is hard at work creating radicals out of everybody. That's what they do. But it's getting harder and harder for the moles, the federales, the Fed posters, the Unit 8200s to come and say that all this stuff is not reality, as they used to say. This is from my website, lookoutforcharlie.com. I posted this today. They're admitting that Wi-Fi, phones, RF, ELF is inducing and causing Alzheimer's because it's creating calcium accumulation and other things. And imagine how these frequencies are interacting with the aluminum in the body, on and in the body, and all the other things that are on and in the body now. We won't even get into that. Key words. But you know what I'm talking about. I put out the human antenna videos years ago, all about the human body being conductive to RF, ELF, frequencies, dirty electricity, all that. People went berserk. federales and these people coming and saying it was an impossibility, it was sci-fi lunacy, it was all this shit, praying that anybody watching the video would read their comments and go, yeah, totally, I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to go back and keep playing Angry Birds or whatever was out there at the time. But now they're admitting that scientists want to use people as antennas to power 6G. And they are already doing this. Don't be fooled. And it says, why? Because your body is pretty great at harvesting energy. You know, phantom vibrations. Remember they had an excuse for that everybody was so used to having their phones in their pockets and shit that they would just feel random vibrations. But it was happening to little kids and people that didn't carry phones around with them. This is why. But the good thing is it's getting to the point where they cannot deny it. They can't deny it. They can't say anything. I'm interested in this. I'm interested in frequencies. But I don't want to be doing this. I would rather be working on a car. I would rather be hanging out with my family. I would rather be riding a fucking BMX bike. I'd rather be making music. You know, and they try to paint these people out as though they're doing conspiracy theories all the time. And it's just not the case. The reason why I make these videos is because this exists and people need to know before it destroys them, their families, or their loved ones. It's the only reason why I do this, and to bring in critical mass. Because back when I started, almost zero people that were talking about this in a sober, concise, clear manner. It was just a bunch of intentional paranoid shit. That's why nobody took it seriously. And they would intertwine subjects and weave it all together, and it frankly looked and sounded fucking nuts. It really did. But it's happening to people, and it needs to be talked about. But all this other shit, post something stuck in your arm, it's all destroying science, and it's ushering in psychiatry, psychology as a Gestapo religion. And it's resetting everything to warp and stretch itself around the very real things that are causing these symptoms that people refer to as illness or disease. You know, when you subvert science, you can say, oh, this guy has these symptoms because he has this. No, this is a symptom. And the symptom is from something else, like Alzheimer's. You know, somebody will say, oh, it's really sad that so-and-so came down with Alzheimer's. Totally sad. They didn't come down with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a symptom due to, a few different factors. But one of those factors is frequency causing Alzheimer's. And they are admitting it now. So think about this. These are all symptoms. Back pain. Everything that people experience, artificial tinnitus, anything that seems like it has gone lymphatic, when something goes lymphatic and it gets into your joints swell, and then all of a sudden you've got these arthritis symptoms. Arthritis itself is a symptom. It's not a disease, it's a symptom. And it's all happening because of RF and shit in and on our bodies. So these are symptoms, and it's getting harder and harder for these people to deny it. Lookoutforcharlie.com is now back up as a database. Read, watch, listen, whatever. And it's just going to continue to build up, which I originally intended to do, but I had open registration for a while, and it became another job trying to keep the federales out of that forum and post-bombing, at 2, 3 in the morning, then having to go in and clean the whole forum up. It just became a job, and I was done with it. I've got a blog up there as well that I'm going to be updating all the time. You may have also noticed that these are off here for now. And it's an experiment that I'm doing. The experiment is not over, and I'm still collecting information. Now, out of the blue, I would like to thank everybody who has donated to me. You've really helped me out. It's been a crazy ride the last few months. On October 28th of 2022, I released a video called Why Are They Doing This? Weaponized RF/ELF. And in that video, I mentioned that I had talked to my dad about the history of mental health. No one believed that a normal person could just go psychotic. It's ridiculous. So I decided to ask my dad, my father, the metallurgist. He's not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but he's been around. and he pays attention. So I talked about talking to my dad. That was the first time I had ever talked about that in a video, ever. Then later on in the video, I mentioned what they are going to be doing with these weapons and why. Here's what I said. At the bottom, you have eugenics and you have weapons of war. So if you're a problem for the system, or you're a drag on the system, you can just drop now, or you can just have a heart attack, or you could have whatever, or you could just get sick and die, and it will appear as though it was just a natural thing if you didn't know any better. That's what I said in that video. My dad was a retiree. He wasn't ill. He wasn't sick. I had been texting with him. I had just seen him not long before that. And I haven't told anybody on this channel what happened. I'm not going to give you the full details, but what happened was I got a text. My throat feels kind of weird. Something's going on. Didn't say a sore throat. Said it felt weird. But I slept through that. My phone was in the other room plugged in because I was really sick. And I get another text. Feels like my throat's closing up. I don't know what's going on. So he's not calling 911. He's just saying, I think I might need you to come around and just be there. So I kind of freak out, start texting, didn't get anything back in a couple minutes. I call, I didn't get an answer. That's weird, but it was getting kind of late, could have been sleeping. So I drive down there, but he was gone. The throat closing, that was it. So I talk about people who could be perceived as a drain on the system and talk about my dad in the same video. And coincidentally, my dad just happens to get some allergic reaction to something, you know, that appears to be some kind of allergic reaction. And a lot of people that start to get those wood glue hawkers and loogies in their throat, that begins to happen to them. What also happens is they can't swallow. Like if they go to swallow food, the food will get caught in their throat. And then they'll have to like force it back up so they don't choke to death. It's like super glue down in there. Now, my dad was dealing with Morgellons symptoms. He listened to me about certain things, but he wouldn't go full on and do it. He was a 10-minute oil change person. You know, he wanted fast results. So he used bag balm. And although it covered some of the symptoms in the itching, it did not take care of the problem. And suddenly, the man's throat just closes up. Man with no allergies. Nobody in my family has any allergies. And here's another thing, just like we were talking about earlier, allergies are symptoms of something else. You have something in your body that's reacting. It's like the dumb woman that tried to get on my forum and say that borax was burning people. Borax, which is no more toxic than table salt, tried to say it was burning kids' skin. No, the kid has an infection on their skin. And when the borax got on it, it upset the infection and it looks like a burn, but it is not. It is this infection acting up because it hates the borax. But yeah, we had no allergies ever. You know, I grew up with a bottle of aspirin above the sink. That was it. No antibiotics, no bullshit. Only if you were sick did you go to the doctors. Or a broken bone, something like that. We didn't have reactions. We didn't have any of this shit that is happening to people now. But my dad, 100%, was dealing with Morgellons symptoms and was having all kinds of weird skin issues along with the itching and the rest of it. And I know he died of this because he texted me he died of his throat closing up like a bee sting or a peanut allergy, even though he had no allergies. So we are still figuring this out. You know, I've been really thinking about it for months now, whether this was a natural thing, something that could have happened. I'm not believing it was, or a Morgellons side effect type situation with an older person. Possibly. Something else? Possibly. I don't know yet. But I have a lot to go on, more than people would think. He was still warm at the hospital. Even the cop that was checking him out in the house said he's still warm. We got to keep going. He's still warm. It was bizarre. Like he was very warm. Like he was sleeping. Some people create a lot of heat when they sleep. It was like that. It was very strange. That's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
I don't like
the world now. I mean, before I always knew I was a son of a bitch. But now I'm the only son of a bitch I know. Hey, make way for a real human being. Get out of the way, yeah.
Look out for Charlie.
What that son of a bitch thinks. I want him dead.